Good evening, everyone. We want to be prompt. For some reason, you Coloradans are afraid of snow. I don't know why, but that's all I've heard this afternoon. It's going to snow, it's going to snow, it's going to snow. Uh-oh.
We got to turn your volume down here.
I muted it.
It's not mute. No, it is.
Okay, there we go. I'm Debbie Miller. I'm president with the Greater Woodland Park Chamber of Commerce, and I appreciate each and every one of you coming out tonight. Those that are on Zoom that are watching, it is being shown Facebook Live as well. Zoom Live. We will be able to accept questions via Zoom. I also have several of my chamber board members here this evening. There's more that turned out tonight. I was like, wow, this is cool. I have Jim Olson, Barb Asbury, Mark Maruzak, Shannon Anderson, Steve Wolf, and why Michael Lawson is on my board. He will not be active with the forum this evening. So again, they will pass out paper, ink pen, if you want to ask a question. They will bring it up to us as well. In addition, we will vet those questions if there's time. We have several questions as it is to be asking each candidate. This will be on YouTube tomorrow. Is that correct, Rob? That's correct. Awesome. So we will have it up on the Chamber's website. It will also be up on the city's website as well. Those that are on Zoom, there is no chat. If you're wanting to ask a question and you're on Zoom, you have to put it in the Q&A, and the moderator and I will be able to look at that. The press will be allowed to ask questions as well. We've asked that no placards be brought in. We ask that as we go through this candidates forum, that while we know you're here to hear and listen from the candidates, we're asking for respect, not a lot of hooting and hollering. Boy, you can tell I used to be in the South, hooting and hollering. Okay, just be respectful. This is being recorded, so there are people that could not be here tonight and they do want to see that. So with that, I'm going to turn it over at this point to our moderator, Carol Harvey. Carol.
Thanks, Deb. Quick introduction for myself. Many of you have been to the forums before here in City Hall and know my background in that I once served on the same dais as you guys, and I'm currently serving as a planning commissioner. I've lived here in town for 17 years, retired from the Army down at Peterson Air Force Base, and then continue to work for the government as a consultant and then later as a federal employee. But now I am a fully retired grandmother and spend a lot of time making quilts and cookies. So, but I know there is a level of anxiety for those of you up there, whether you've been up there a million times or one time. But this is a very easy crowd. You can look out there and see smiling faces that you know. So this is not a toughie. And when we say you've got a 2-minute or a 1 minute or a 30-second response time, trust me, 30 seconds is a lifetime. So don't worry that you're not going to be able to make the point that you want to make. So if I can, I'd like first for all of the candidates to just introduce themselves by name, and then we'll go to your introduction after that.
Robert Zuluaga.
Matt Hayes.
Don DeZellem.
Catherine Nakai.
Kelly Case.
Hillary LaBarre.
Frank Connors.
Deanne Bitterman.
Thank you so much. Just a few rules of engagement to include, in addition to those that Deb has shared with us. This is a forum format. All of you realize that it's not a debate. This is not a high school debate club. This is an opportunity for you all to share your views, why you're running, your vision for Woodland Park and our community. But the way that we've formatted the questions will allow for each of you to have response time to an individual's answer to a question that I may ask. So you will have a 2-minute opening statement and an opportunity for a 2-minute closing statement. And I may add at this time, David Ott, who is also a candidate for council, is ill tonight. He has submitted his introduction and his closing statements, and Ms. Miller is going to read those when his time comes up in the order of which she drew his number. So I think he's number 4. So somewhere between, he's number 3. So we will read David's introduction and his closing statement. So then I will ask each of you an individual unique question. You'll have a 1-minute response, and then everyone else will have an opportunity to respond to that individual's answer in 30 seconds and only one time. That way we're going to get several questions asked, but each one of you will receive a unique question for your 1-minute response. Following the list of questions that I have, then we'll take questions from the press. They'll have both the Courier and the Jackpot. We do have someone from the Jackpot online. They'll probably be asking their question via Zoom. Then we will take questions from the audience and from Zoom, time depending. It really will depend on what's going on outside and whether or not all of you look like you're really ready to go home. So just keep that in mind. So if I may, then I'm going to start with Robert, and please, and I will all address you by your first name unless you tell me that you don't want the grandmother to call you by your first name. So Robert, please.
Good evening, citizens of Woodland Park. Thanks to the Chamber of Commerce and all who've contributed to putting this event together. Why am I running for mayor? Since elected to city council, many of you have gotten to know me either by conversation we've had one-on-one or watching council proceedings on the dais and following my voting record on various topics. For 30 years, I've engaged in civics and constitutional education, encouraging citizen participation in representative government. 2 years on city council has given me an understanding of what's needed in our mountain community. Tonight, as we answer your questions, you'll be able to judge for yourself who you'd like to see directing the affairs of council and to lead us forward in a positive and united direction.
Keep going, Robert.
It's time to pull together as a community, support businesses, collaborate between the DDA, Main Street, and Keep Woodland Park Beautiful boards, build respect as we unify our schools, educators, and parents, as we strengthen community, identity, solving housing and transportation problems together. I've seen a lack of leadership since the untimely passing of both Mayors Levy and Carr. Mayor Levy passed the gavel to Mayor Carr and lamented that he was unable to heal the division within the community and on council. Mayor Carr had a vision for our community. However, his run was cut short. I've become increasingly concerned with council leadership in 3 areas: a lack of transparency, where decisions are made in advance of meetings, circumventing open discussions before the people; a lack of respect shown to fellow citizens, making them waiting for hours to express their concerns about city policy; and questionable process of board appointments made during Mayor Pro Tem's tenure. The appointment of Mayor Pro Tem to the position of mayor, just as we're entering the election cycle, begs the question, shouldn't we be letting the people decide? This type of leadership undermines trust and public confidence. Our city has struggled to fill the leadership void, and I believe I am the best candidate for the job.
Matt?
Hi, everybody. I'm Matt Hayes, and I'm hoping to earn your vote in this upcoming election. I am 28 years old. I'm from Louisiana and moved to Woodland Park just about 6 years ago. I found out about Woodland Park because my mom went to Keras from 2014 to 2016 and visited her one time in 2015. While my mom's religious beliefs and my own are not the same, and I disagree with a lot of the philosophies of Keras, I couldn't argue that she had landed herself in one of the most beautiful places in the country. And so when I got a job offer in 2016 in Colorado Springs, I took it and I've called Woodland Park home ever since. My professional background is in oil and gas. After attending the University of Louisiana, I went to work as a drilling fluids engineer in West Texas and later moved into business operations. The job I took in Colorado Springs was as the director of operations of a company that helps oil companies acquire and rebrand gas stations and convenience stores. And these days, I'm a part owner in a drilling chemicals company, as well as a supply chain consultant. Business closures, mask mandates, and vaccine mandates inspired me to get involved in politics. Starting in 2020, I saw that when left-leaning politicians were in charge, they would take any opportunity to seize power and infringe on the rights of individuals and businesses. It appeared to me that there was a lack of conservative leadership that was willing to stand up and defend American liberty. So I decided to step up and become one of the conservatives who would. If elected, I will apply my business experience and my conservative values to the governance of our city. I hope to inspire more young people to get involved in community service as well. I want to thank all of you for coming out today. I'm very excited to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Don?
Thank you. My name is Don DeZella. I've been a resident of Woodland Park since about 1991 for the most part. I had some time in Green Mountain Falls and Colorado Springs and Thornton thrown in there, but Woodland Park has always kind of been my home. Even when I lived in Thornton, I would make the drive every Sunday to come here for church. I'd read the local newspaper while I was not here. One of the things that I'm running on is the fact that I'm a person who's just a normal person. In fact, somebody in the last week basically came out and said, you know, Don's a non-politician. I have no political ties to any organization or to any people here in town. I'm here running to represent the citizen. Part of my background of why I feel I would be a good candidate is that in the last 5 years or so, I've become very involved in the community in different things. I've been on the 2030 Comprehensive Plan Committee. I chaired the Parks, Trails, and Open Space and Sustainability Committee. I worked on the recent Charter Review Committee. I'm a member of the Parks and Recreation Board Committee. Before that, I was active in the Rotary Club up here. I helped form the scholarship that they give out every year. I worked hand in hand with the school district and the police department in the early 90s to organize senior ditch days that were the legal one and such. So I helped many years ago with the Christmas parade. So I've always been involved. I'm a graduate of the Citizens Academy, and I feel that it's important for the citizen to be involved in their government. And I'm here to help you with that. Thank you.
I want to apologize to the candidates. We thought we had a spiffy way for you to watch a time clock, but it's not doing well. So we're going to go to the old fashioned method. And at the 1 minute mark for the 2 minute entries, she will let you know. And then as we enter the 1 or the 2 minute at the 1 minute mark or the 30-second mark for the 1 minute responses, she'll let you know with that yellow cow. All right. David Ott is not here, as we mentioned before, and now Deb is going to read his introduction.
Good evening. I'm reading this on behalf of David Ott. He is running for city council. His apologies for not attending in person as he has the flu. I'd like to thank the Chamber of Commerce for their hard work in planning and sponsoring this event, and the City of Woodland Park for hosting the event. I am Chief of Operations on a contact supporting space force. I hold a bachelor's degree in environmental science and graduated with honors. I learned a significant amount about the forest, fire mitigation, land and water management, which I believe is of utmost importance in our community. I also studied city management through the International City County Management Association. As a retired veteran, I have dedicated my life to service. And looking for a way to continue service, I was introduced to the Veterans to Local Government program and was accepted into an internship program with the City of Woodland Park. I learned the functions, processes, complexities of municipal government. I've served as the broadband project manager. This led to my interest in serving our community as city council member. I know I can make a real difference, and I know what right looks like in terms of behavior, leadership, and teamwork. I will focus my energies on servicing our debt, supporting our small business, economic recovery, supporting our law enforcement, first responders, and veterans, improving the quality of life for our aging population, and reestablishing and fostering a great relation with our county and state agencies as appropriate. While I'm not a native, I'm proud to say after a lifetime of service that I am from Woodland Park. I will spend the rest of my life here with my wife, who is a native. I believe the role of city council member is to represent the people of the city, all the people fairly, publicly, and the best of my ability. We're the policy decision makers, and I'm past 2 seconds or 2 minutes.
And we do wish that David would be here. David does have a website if you have other questions about his platform and would wish to send questions to David personally. Catherine, please.
Hi, I'm Catherine Nakai. I'm running for city council because I want to continue to serve and give back to the community I love by bringing thoughtful, calm, independent, and a reasoned voice to council. I am a 20-year resident of Woodland Park, a property owner, a wife, a stepmom, a grandmother, and a volunteer in the community. My 26 years in a professional engineering environment has taught me to be detail-oriented and to look for efficient solutions and for efficient solutions to every problem without emotion or bias. I prepare for meetings, I do my homework, I ask questions of staff when necessary, I try to be efficient and cognizant of time on the dais. I continually ask myself, is this the best decision for our residents and our community? I'm not a developer, business owner, or a career politician. I have no affiliation with any third-party entities. I'm a citizen just like you. My only agenda is to do what's best for Woodland Park and her citizens. I love the mountain life. I love Woodland Park. It is truly a great place to live, work, and play.
Thank you, Catherine. Kelly.
Good evening. Thank you. I'm Kelly Case, and I see a lot of familiar faces in the audience. Thank you, everyone, for being here. And I'd also like to thank the Chamber for all their hard work in sponsoring this for you all. It's actually done for you so that you can have an opportunity to hear from us. Carol, thank you again for helping us out as well. And so I don't have a prepared statement. I'm pretty much just like to talk to folks from my heart. I have been involved in Woodland Park for 24 years, almost 25, 17 of which I was the city's finance director and treasurer. And what qualified me for that job was I have a bachelor's degree in accounting and a master's in finance. And prior to coming here, I worked actually in the city auditor's office in Colorado Springs, auditing internal functions. Really interesting work. I'm now serve as a real estate professional with Keller Williams here in town. And if I had it to do over again, I'd probably do more of that. It's really fun working with people. I am, my platform, I just am here to lend my skills and talents to do the best we can for the citizens of Woodland Park. We've come a long way from when I ran before. Last time I ran, I was kind of angry and got past that. And we've done some great things financially, fiscally, everything, but we have a lot of work left to do. We've got to solve some personnel issues and some pay issues, just like every business in the country, I believe, is struggling with. So I appreciate you all coming out. Hopefully you'll ask me questions, call me, email me. I'd love to visit with you. I've had a lot of folks call. So thank you for being here. And again, thanks to you ladies.
Boy, that was really good for ad lib. You were like 1 second short.
Woo.
Good job. Hillary, please.
Good evening, everybody. Is my mic working? Okay, I couldn't tell. I'm running for mayor this evening because this community matters to me. The business of the city matters to me. I've been serving as mayor for almost 1.5 years because of an unfortunate situation with our previous mayor. I know that there's been some controversy that I was appointed actual mayor of the city by my fellow council members, but don't forget, council previous to that appointed me as mayor pro tem in case anything happened to our mayor while he was serving. And it was devastating that it did happen because he was a good friend of mine, even though politically we may not have always agreed. I've enjoyed sitting in the position. I believe I'm the most qualified to run the meetings. I do have the most experience with it. As a matter of fact, policies and procedures didn't exist for council until I had been elected and wrote the book on it. I believe that I stand by them, I abide by them, and it's important to me. And I've also found that I do work with the majority of council very well. We don't always all have to agree, but we should all be professional with each other. And I find that the majority of council is professional with me. And I really do enjoy this experience in working with the public, working with my citizens, and working to improve our beautiful city and maintaining the beauty that we have in it currently. So thank you.
Thanks, Hillary. Frank.
Good evening, Woodland Park, and thank you, Chamber, for hosting this forum. My name is Frank Connors, and I'm running for City Council. I'm a retired Navy diver, a retired operations manager for a major oil field company, and also a licensed insurance agent. I'm currently the chairman of the city's Charter Review Committee. Our home rule requires that our city council members serve at large, which means they serve the entire community. I support businesses, our city manager, and all of the city employees. I have the background as a team member and as a team leader. I can assure you that I would represent all of our citizens. My wife and I are retired here in Woodland Park, and it would be my honor and privilege to serve on the city council. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. And Deanne?
Yeah, better. I can't tell if this is on either. This close?
Green is go.
Okay. Rob's coming to your rescue. All right.
I've lived here since '02, and this year it's 20 years. I moved from suburbs around Minneapolis, where my family of origin is. And when I first came here, I had to drive down this pass to work. I've driven down the pass for 12 years. And I was very nervous about those curves and hills. And I always watched my thermometer on my car, because anything under 32 degrees is freezing. There was a truck that had little spigots of pink that was going down on the ground right in front of me. And I thought this was crazy. And then I found out it doesn't get as cold here as it does in Minnesota. So whatever liquid he was pouring on there was actually letting me drive a little faster around those curves so I could get to work on time. I worked at the School for the Deaf and the Blind down in the Springs. In Teller County, I have worked with special ed kids in Crescent, Gateway, and Summit. And I really had a lot of good feedback from the kids. They helped me feel better about contributing at a job. I have gone through things watching the city change. When I first came here, there was the Hayman fire. And I looked at the back of my car to see if my grandfather clock would fit in it. And the neighbors across the street had a 2-hour notice to leave, and it never did happen, but it was a scary thing. I believe that I can contribute on the city council. I have strong feelings for the public and for my average citizens to give input. We are a republic, and so you vote for me for decisions that are made in the city. Thank you very much.
Jan, thank you. Okay, now we've all got a feel for 2 minutes. Now we're going to switch to 1 minute. I'm going to start the first question with Robert. Robert will have an opportunity to respond with 1 minute. Each of you may then comment or rebut Robert's answer with 30 seconds. One time only for that question. That's in order for us to get as many questions in as possible. Robert, this question for you is along the lines of your introduction, and we'll see if the other candidates would like to comment as well in their 30-second spot. An individual council member has no authority. Only the council as a whole can make decisions for the city. What skills or traits will will allow you to contribute to effective operations of the council as a whole.
Thank you. That's right. Each of us on council get one vote, so we make up a total of, if we're fully seated, 7 votes. And that requires that we not only take time to get familiar with what the issues are that we have, but also to rely on the city staff and what they've presented to us in terms of a particular topic, different boards, and what their findings have been. And then to solicit the attention or the interest from the community in terms of what their input is on any particular topic. So it's a combination of those pieces that come together. Then we discuss on council. We each have a point of view, but we certainly don't have all of the points of view. So it is important that we work together with all of you and the professionals who bring the information to us to come to a decision.
Thank you. And I'll go down the line. Matt, do you have a response or would like to comment on that same question?
Yeah, I would just add that I agree with what Mr. Zulawaga just said. I think that gridlock tends to be a good thing. It forces debate and it forces a body of members to come to a consensus before anything is done. And I don't think that it's a good idea to have one individual who's able to make a decision for a community, but that the majority of the representatives need to agree with each other to get anything done.
Do any other candidates have a need to comment on that question? Kelly?
I'll just comment that I think that's a great question. And I think it's a good reminder to the council and those that may be on council. Sometimes when we're in the community or at other meetings or groups, sometimes we might get a little zealous and say that the council stands this way or the council feels this way or thinks this way. And that should never be done. And you have the opportunity to say what your thoughts are, but never speak on behalf of the council. Thank you.
And Deanne has a comment.
I am a registered nurse and had a lot of people work underneath me doing some intense things, and I had to trust them. Group dynamics is very important. And the beginning of group dynamics is to respect each other and to trust. You have to know your people and they learn to trust you with your decisions, even if you don't agree, and make decisions together. Sometimes the hard decisions are the best ones with debate. I also believe that we can work together for those hard decisions, and it might take longer.
30 seconds is harder, isn't it?
Yes.
But thank you. Unless there is another comment to that question, I'll now go to Matt with a new question. Matt, for nearly 2 decades, the city council voted to approve the city's mill levy on property taxes. That's a significant source of revenue for city services. What future actions should the council take with regard to the mill levy?
Well, with the way that property values have been increasing so rapidly here in Woodland Park, I believe what I'm in favor of is a variable mill levy rate that is adjusted annually per assessments, so that the amount of revenue that is collected through the mill levy increases year over year marginally at a target rate, so that some years it may be a lower rate or a higher rate, but that the amount of revenue being collected by the city is increasing by something like 3 to 5% annually.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to comment on the mill levy question? Deanne?
I found out that we made $1 million more than projected revenue last year. And I can only guess because my neighbors and I, our house assessments went way up. This is unusual. I've read a couple of articles and people have tried to understand why this has happened even more in Woodland Park than other cities. And I believe that when we have a high assessment rate of our homes and our property taxes, that we could have possibility of lowering taxes.
30 seconds. Yes, Hillary first. Go ahead, Ellie.
I'd just like to note that the assessment values come from county, not city. And that is a rate that is driven up by the assessor who works through the county. The city doesn't receive the assessment rates. We have the mill levy rate, which hasn't been raised in over 20 some years. And that is not impacted by our assessments, by our property. Thanks.
Kelly.
Thank you. I just want to make some clarifications, and I do this often, but just bear with me. The assessed valuations are directly related to market increases. And as we all know, the market is moving quickly and high. And so I don't think any of us buy our homes so that the value of our homes go down. The unfortunate consequences of that and the market rate increasing, or the market value of our homes increasing, is that our taxes go up as well. Wow, Debbie.
That's 30 seconds.
I wasn't done. That's okay.
Catherine,
thanks.
did you also want to respond?
I did. I wanted to add onto Kelly and Hillary. We have in the past, because because our sales tax, lodging tax, and mill levy tax, our general fund is fairly healthy, we're not comfortable reducing the mill levy permanently, but we've floated the idea to reduce it on a temporary basis if it really made sense. At the moment, for me, it doesn't make sense in that we have other things that we may or may not need to fund in the future, but I'm still not against it. Sorry.
Thank
30 seconds is tough.
Carol, I'd like to weigh in as well, if I might.
Yes, please, since I took that little sideline there with the ref. Okay, go ahead.
All right, the mill levy, right, the assessment absolutely is done at a county level, but the mill rate can be corrected by council. We can vote it to be decreased. And when you look at our city revenues over the last year, we had $1.34 million in excess. And the members in the community who have a house, who have taxes to pay on their house, it may be a small amount, but it's significant that we could offer a give back to the community in a mill rate reduction. And we have large revenues in sales tax that have really offset that.
Thank you. And Frank.
We've talked about this, and I have to agree with Catherine that until we actually look at the budget really, really good, we shouldn't be giving back money. Now, there are opportunities. We should certainly take those opportunities. I do not like to pay taxes either, and I'm retired here. So one of the suggestions was possibly taking the mill rates at age 62 and leaving them the same until 65 when the state does their reduction. And then at 68, it just goes away for 68s who own homes.
Thank you. This next question, we'll start with Don. And Don, this is a 1-minute response. Everyone on the dais or the podium or the bloody pulpit on some occasions has stated their support for small businesses. The city's charter specifically prohibits the use of municipal funds or resources to incentivize private development or existing businesses. Would you support a change to the charter to amend or change this prohibition? Why or why not?
No, I wouldn't. There's a reason why American economy is built on free enterprise. What we need to do is make the environment up here an environment that entices businesses to come to us and to find their niche in our market. Let the invisible hand guide the businesses up here.
Thank you. To the point. Would anyone else like to respond to that? Deanne.
My heart is in small businesses in our town. I have a friend who did his own research and found 4,000 businesses that pay taxes. 580 of those are people who live here. I would like to see that number doubled, and that would make 1,000. And if we have 8,000 in our city, that would be 1/8 of us bringing in our own money. And any way that we could make the environment better, make it easier for people to start their businesses would be appreciated.
Anyone else like to comment on that one?
Yeah, I would.
Please, Robert.
Yeah, the whole idea of a government incentive has been birthed in Woodland Park through the DDA. And the DDA has set up certain structure that allows businesses to be incentivized to develop here in Woodland Park. That is that is one way that that incentivization can happen. The other way is through making the tax rate on businesses and some of the things we've discussed in the past in terms of vendor fees given back to businesses so that they can actually thrive and prosper in the economy with their own free enterprise skills and opportunities that they bring.
Thank you. Frank?
I'd like to add that and thank you for the Downtown Development Authority. But here are a few things that they're supposed to actually do. Promote the safety, prosperity, security, and general welfare, of the district and its inhabitants. Prevent deterioration of property values and structures within the district. Prevent growth of blighted areas within the district, and assist the city in development, redevelopment, and planning economic development for our city. Those things need to happen.
Thank you, Frank. Timing's getting much better. Thank you for your response. Anyone else like to comment? Okay. Catherine, this question is for you for 60 seconds. And you're very familiar with this. In 2021, the City Planning Commission approved and the City Council endorsed an update to the city's master plan or our comprehensive plan. Nearly 100 citizens participated in the endeavor. Do you believe the plan addresses smart growth? And if not, what would you recommend as a change to that plan?
I do believe it promotes smart growth. I don't know that I have anything more to say for 2 minutes or a minute for that. I know that we put a lot of effort into it. I was also part of that Transportation and Drainage Committee, and we looked into the feasibility of a bypass and drainage and other issues. But I do think that the citizens do want to see smart growth, and whether some want to see high density and some don't, I think we have to come up with a compromise between all of it to make us what we want to be. But I do.
And what, Deanne, you make 30 seconds to comment on that comment on the comp plan as well.
I have read the future plans for our city, and it does make me excited. And I heard there were a lot of people who worked very, very hard on it. I also heard that it's living, so we can change it and improve it. And I would love to hear from other people on how to do that, make it even a better city than what we have.
And is there anyone else that would like to comment on our master plan? Don, please.
I believe the plan is a good plan that we did, but the key to it is to remember that it's an aspirational document. It's not locked in. It's not the law. It's not the positive or the absolute direction we have to go. It's aspirational, so that there's room in there to work within it for the needs of the town as we grow.
Thank you. Kelly?
How did you know I wanted something to say? You're reading my mind. The comp plan is, it's our second one. It's had a lot of input from the community. And it really is, as Dawn said, aspirational, but it is a guide. It's a guide for planning, for developers, for the staff, and for the council and planning commission to use as a steering tool to navigate through the next 10 years. So I think it's important that we have that document to refer to. It is not law, but it is a good tool to use for evaluation purposes. Thank you.
Any other comments on our comprehensive plan? If not, this next question is for Kelly. Oh, did we have another hand raised? Hillary is very stoic. Okay. Kelly, water is a crucial resource for growth. What solutions as a city council member can you identify to ensure future water availability for our citizens, our businesses, and our very large water consumers?
That's a big question, Carol. Our water resources, I have to say, are well managed. Kip Wiley and his team, Kelly Simpkins, his assistant, and others in the organization work very carefully to manage our water resources through our water tap management plan. It is a very complex document, and any of you that have more interest in water, you would be fascinated to spend time with him and have him share what that means and how that works. There are banks of water, and he uses those in a very planned way. We also are very cognizant and have great relationships with people in the southeast part of the state for water shares as they come available. So that if we have the opportunity to procure more water, we have those relationships and we jump on those as soon as we can, because they only get more expensive as they become less available. I'm about out of time, I'm sure. Thank you.
I thought you were done.
I am kind of. Thank you.
And Frank would like to comment on that, please.
Yes, I agree with Kelly. Kip is doing an excellent job. We're also constructing, we're planning and in the plans of constructing a new reservoir. We've also discussing improving our water reuse, which is refiltration. There's a lot of things that they've been talking about that are not as futuristic as everybody thinks, and that would help us with our almost drought next year. So
Thank you for mentioning the reservoir, Frank.
it's a good plan.
Others that would like to comment on water?
Yeah, I would just say that I think the city's greatest asset in managing water as a resource for the city is Kip Wiley. He does a fantastic job. Currently, there are many vacancies in the Public Works Department, and I think it's very important that we implement strategies to get those positions filled. So Kip has the bandwidth to make sure that he is proactively managing our water management plans.
Robert, you were.
Yeah, I'd like to say a couple of things. One, that Kip would tell you that we are 1 year away from a drought, one season away from a drought. So we are constantly need to be vigilant about water in Woodland Park. And as we've got growth and development happening, yes, that's allocated and planned out for with water taps. There's like 999 water taps available for allocation. But the part that's really important is that as we develop the reservoir and maintain our reserves or keep our what they call our augmented water, it's a deep subject, I'll tell you. There's a lot to it. 30 seconds is just not enough.
Thank you, Robert. Can anyone top that?
Oh,
Hillary.
Can't say that I can top it, but I do sit on the Utility Board Commission, and we did just have a recent meeting. Our finances are in good condition. We are currently considering a potential increase in water tap fees, and that doesn't save the developers money, but it does save the residents money by not having an increase in their monthly water fee. So we also have it budgeted already for the reservoir. We've been keeping it in reserves so that once we're able to act on the development, we will. Thanks.
Thank you. Hillary, this question is for you. The city's weathered the impacts of COVID-19 and the pandemic and continues to assess the repercussions for the city's government, businesses, and our individual citizens. What do you believe the city has done well, and what do you think we need to do to prepare for future disasters or emergencies?
Well, I actually think one of the things the city has done the best is working hand in hand with the county. I know that in the past, there have been some trials and tribulations with the city being able to work well with the county. And during COVID, our commissioners worked very closely with city council. The health department kept us in the loop. We would have biweekly meetings on the status of COVID and the uptick in the cases. I also think that the city did a good job in letting us have control, not control, but we worked really close with the county with mask mandates, asking the state for a waiver and allowing our businesses to operate as freely as possible during that time. We also, as council, the majority of us signed a resolution saying that we wouldn't infringe on our citizens' rights when the states wanted to. And I think that we recognize citizens as individuals in that case and making their own decisions with their health. And I appreciate that very much.
Okay. Comments from any of the other candidates on our preparation for COVID and future disasters or emergencies? Robert?
Yeah, I think that the COVID lessons we learned, and particularly working together, as Hillary says, with the county, is very telling of what we see coming up with wildfires. What we saw in Denver in December with wildfires and community readiness is so necessary. And what I saw doing some of the training with emergency management during COVID is something that I'd like to see us really sharpen our attention on here in Woodland Park, and more citizens get trained in some of the emergency management steps.
Other comments? I'm going to modify this question because I would like to hear from Frank. In addition to preparing for the type of disaster that was declared for a pandemic, and based on the comments that Robert just made, what else can the city do? And this will be a minute response for fire mitigation.
Trying to put my thoughts together here. There's a couple things we can actually do for fire mitigation. We could work closer with the forest department in some of the areas that are overgrown still around Rampart Range Road and close to the edge there. We're doing programs that the city's approved for monies to go in and come out for, I guess they're donations, right? For the, yeah, that's for the advertisement of our fire mitigation that manage it. management that
education.
We're doing education, thank you. And then I call out Mike Nakai, who's responsible for that stuff, and he's doing a good job. But it's education. But some of the ideas we can do real quick is I do believe we can do a volunteer fire department within Woodland Park and work in conjunction with Northeast Teller County. I think that's totally possible.
Thank you,
And I'll
Frank.
leave it at that.
Thank you, Frank. And does anyone else want to follow up on fire mitigation or preparing for what I'm afraid is inevitable, another wildfire? 30 seconds for any candidate. Yes, Hillary.
I can just briefly say that I did meet with the mayor of Colorado Springs. They're going to be purchasing a machine that I think is called the shaker, and it can pull trees individually, assess whether they're good for making furniture or they need to go to a slash pile. It strips the trees and lays them down right in a pile, and it works really quickly. And I think it can clear something like 900 acres in a day. So I've discussed with Mayor Southers about being able to utilize that machine in our community along with Green Mountain Falls and Monument.
Thank you. Any other comments? I know Deanne, you mentioned it before in your introduction.
Okay.
But please, if you have more comment.
Yes, I've experienced 2 fires here, and it was hard to go to the high school and find out every day how many miles away the fire was. And the people were called out of the high school, and I didn't know why, and that those were the people whose houses burned. I just think it has already been mentioned too, that good communication with the community, emergency communication. When I lived across the street, I was in the county and the neighbors were in the city, and the police came around with the foghorn. And I went down to the police and asked them why they were talking to the neighbors.
I remember that very well, depending on what side of the street you lived on. Deanne, I'm going to go ahead and follow up with you with your individual question.
Are you doing any more questions on that one, or is that it?
It's 30 seconds per response, but please, Robert, if you had something else to say about fire mitigation.
I think the one other thing I want to put in our minds is when we were kids, we used to have we used to have drills for nuclear alert, right? I think we need to develop the same in the city in terms of fire alert, and then have a really well thought out plan of how we're going to roll that out. And it needs to be something that we practice. It's something that we do at the schools, and something that we can easily find on the city website to go through what the steps are.
Sadly, I remember duck and cover.
Yeah.
Carol, if I could just use my time to remind the community to be sure and sign up with
Nixle.
not Everbright, but there's another service that you can sign up for to get a text alert for emergencies, snow situations, all kinds of things, whether a road's closed. I would encourage people to do that because that will help in those emergency situations.
No, thank you for that reminder. Now, Deanne, this is your question. In 2013, the Woodland Park City Council voted 3-2 to prohibit recreational marijuana sales in the city limits. The resulting ordinance also prohibits the operation of medical marijuana centers, commercial cultivation operations, etc. Do you believe the city council should revisit this issue? And if so, what would you propose?
I know that other cities have brought in a lot of money because of the marijuana. I'm a registered nurse and we study human beings' growth and development. And when 12-year-olds get their parents' marijuana, it's going to affect the growth and development of their brain. So I would prefer to not have it so closely to our young people here. I also am concerned about cartel, neighborhoods where police have to work with cartel, or even cartel sometimes ask kids to help them bring in money by helping them with robbing the 7-Eleven. I believe that there are people who do benefit from marijuana, and we live close enough to where people can. I have seen it work well with cancer victims. And but I would like it to be in another city.
Would anyone else care to comment on it? Yes, Catherine.
So I commented on the last forum when I did this. If the citizens truly want it, then they can do a citizens petition, but I will not support it for many of the reasons that Deanne said.
Thank you. Matt.
Yeah, I would just add that I've heard a number of issues with criminal elements associated with retail sales of marijuana with law enforcement officers here in Woodland Park and in the county. And at this time, I would not be in favor of bringing retail marijuana facilities into the city for that reason. Those issues need to be resolved, and I don't want to see that experiment take place here at home.
Thank you.
The name of the other registration is Everbridge.
Okay, I won't take that away from your time.
Thank you. I was here when when the marijuana was legalized, and I was on staff and remember this council, or the council at the time, deliberating about whether or not we wanted that in Woodland Park. It was a resounding no. It was a resounding ban by the citizens. In fact, it went as far as the county for either medical or retail marijuana. Of course, the grow operation that is provided for in the statute still applies. We can't ban that. Thank you.
Any other comments?
I'd just like to say that 30 years ago, I lived in Denver. I love Denver. Denver was it was a lively city. It was fabulous. I've seen with the introduction of marijuana in Denver, it's attracted all sorts of people who are not even from there, and who just, it has taken the caliber of the city down. And I would not like to see that happen in Woodland Park when we can simply redirect folks somewhere else.
Thank you, Robert and Hillary.
I was just going to say that I know that our county and city law enforcement are staunchly against that as an option, and I support their decision in that.
Thank you. Robert, we're going to come back to you for your 1-minute response. In 2016, by a 60% yes vote, Woodland Park voters approved of 1.09 sales tax to supplement the RE2 school district budget, while retiring one of the school district property tax mill levies at the same time for the citizens of Woodland Park. Are you in favor of overturning that vote with a council effort?
No, I'm not. I do see that that's a lever council can have as influence in the school district, but I don't think that that's the way. I think that it's time for us as a community to look at what can work. We are seeing some real lively discussion on the school boards in terms of allocation of resources, improvement of student enrollments, and working together between students, staff, teachers, and parents. So the dollar factor will get itself adjusted. And I would like to see it stay as it is for the moment. And it's something we can certainly review once the whole school system gets stabilized in terms of where we are in the community.
Thanks. And would anyone else like to comment on that tax? Deanne.
I believe I will be making decisions that are well-informed. What I know about the 1.09 tax is that property owners did not have a tax raise, business owners did not, and the school did benefit. So it was like 3 wins, win, win, win. And the money came from people who came to visit and bought things. And some of the taxes are the things that consumers buy. I thought it was a win, win, win.
Thank you. Anyone else? Matt, this question is for you. Pretty topical right now. I'm on a task force that's looking at this issue. Short-term rental properties exist throughout the city. Current city code applies to some aspects of operating these businesses. However, there's no overall strategy to address the operation of short-term rentals. What do you think the city council should do relevant to short-term rentals?
Well, I would say can and should are two different questions. I'll answer what should council do, and my answer would be nothing. I don't think that's something that I would want to get involved in as a council member. I would support developers creating HOAs which ban short-term rentals in new developments. But I'm a laissez-faire capitalist. I believe that the way to have a prospering economy is for low levels of government regulation and low levels of taxes. And so I'm not in favor of regulating an industry more than it needs to be. I think that the only thing that I would be supportive of adding to the short-term rental market is assessing lodging tax on short-term rentals.
Okay, does anyone else would like to comment? Yes, Frank.
We do have a short-term rental issue in this city. We're the only city with a view that does not regulate these businesses that are now inside our neighborhoods. And these are actual businesses. They're paying lodging taxes. Our Title 18 specifically forbids lodging businesses in our neighborhoods. So until we get our zoning straight, this is what we're going to deal with. But we do need regulation. I'm not against, but we need to regulate, just like the other cities.
Thank you. Anyone else like to comment? Yes, Kelly.
I do know that the staff is currently researching what's going on around the state and others to bring some information back to a joint session of the council and planning commission to evaluate what other people are experiencing. I think one of the things that I am not in favor of imposing government on personal property rights, but I do think there needs to be some regulation at the owner's level.
And what
Accountability.
And I'm going to expand on what Kelly said. Sure, the council and planning are obviously looking at this because this is an issue that's come up from a number of citizens. I personally believe we should protect all the property rights. Now, how we do that, I think, will be looked upon with the joint session with council and the information that staff has obtained through other cities as well as citizens that live here. So I think it's a tough topic.
Hillary.
I just want to expand. I actually agree with Matt, but that's the difficulty of sitting on council. So I think you should do it through your HOAs, and regulations through the citizens are more effective and efficient than through the government. However, sometimes I have to put myself, my personal beliefs aside. And if my community is coming to me and telling me that this is a problem, then I need to honor and listen to my community and find the best solution moving forward with it.
Thank you.
I agree. Thank you.
I'd like to just weigh in on that to say that right now it's an evaluation process. This will be actually a topic that comes before the new council for sure. And it's important that we firstly look at all the facts. There's some rumor about how many there are and what sort of impacts it's having on a community. But secondly to that, it's a matter of what are the citizens saying, not just what council and the planning board are saying about it, but I think that it's a three-way look at this. So I'd encourage citizens to come along to that workshop as well.
John, we're going to go to you now for your 1-minute response. And this is one that you're very familiar with. The proposed Highway 24 reliever route, which I think is now the politically correct phrasing for a bypass. It's been a focal point and a possible solution for returning walkability, safety, and enjoyment to our downtown. Realizing that the project could cost tens of millions of dollars, would you as a council member support the construction of this project, knowing the cost that it might have for the city?
Yes, I would, because I think that the cost will bring many benefits to the city. By having a reliever route that will take traffic that doesn't want to come into town around the town. It'll allow those things that you were talking about, the walkability, and such. 20, 30 years ago, when I first moved here, everybody wanted a reliever route except for the business owners downtown, because they saw that as a threat to their business, that nobody would come and stop anymore. Now they're looking at it as a benefit. It'll bring people here. It'll bring people time to walk around the town, enjoy the shops, enjoy the community, eat in the restaurants. So in the long run, the benefits to putting in the reliever route is a good ROI on our money.
Thank you. Other comments? Yes, Hillary?
So I can let the public know, council did set aside $500,000 in American Rescue Funds to do a study with CDOT. We've asked the commissioners to match that with another 500,000 because it is $1 million to do the study for a reliever route. So it is in the works, and we are just waiting on the commissioners to match that dollar amount so that we can get the study accomplished.
Thank you for that update. Yes, ma'am.
I would just add that in addition to American Rescue Plan funds, we also have Invest Act funds, the $1.5 trillion to $3 trillion hard infrastructure bill that was passed by Congress. And so there is money set aside by the federal government for these types of projects. So I would be in favor of the city lobbying the state government via PPACG to try to get those funds allocated through block grants as rapidly as possible to minimize the financial burden that the city would incur through the development of a reliever route.
Robert?
I serve on the PPACG, and in actual fact, we do have allocated a study. It will happen in 2023. It's $500,000. We actually allocated out of the city budget $50,000 for that. So that's step one. But then step two is, what does land acquisition look like? What's the environmental issues look like? How long is this going to take? How do we get it on the slate for projects by CDOT? It's a long process. We have a project happening in 2024 on 67, and it's a journey. It's a journey.
Other comments on that reliever route? Catherine, as a council member, how would you prioritize the city's operating budget? And in relation to the budget, how important are staff wages? Are you willing to sacrifice in other areas of the budget to fairly compensate city employees?
The short-term answer is yes. Our staff is I believe underpaid at the moment, given the market study that we don't have yet, but we have a hard time retaining and getting incentives to even keep staff up here. We're 30% below what we should be. So we need to do something to bring our staff levels back up. And if we have to lose something in the budget, I don't know what that would be at this point, but we would have to discuss it and as a collective group to figure that out.
Okay, thank you. Frank?
I agree with Catherine. We need to do something because as time goes on, we keep getting smaller and smaller in our city utilities, people working. All our groups are getting smaller, and we still have the same amount of work. We budgeted for those people's salary. I don't think we're paying enough because of the Springs is so close, and they can offer more housing options, 20 to 30% higher pay. So yes, I agree.
Yes, ma'am.
A few weeks ago, there was a water main break, and our field services team is presently at 0. So when that water main broke, there was nobody available to go and fix it. We had to contract with a third party to come in and repair it. We ended up losing hundreds of thousands of gallons of water, and the cost of manpower and resources to make the repair was about 5 times more than it would have cost the city to do it. So it is a financially smart decision to pay more money to attract and retain talent, so we're able to manage those disasters when they occur rather than having to bring in third parties.
Thank you. Kelly?
Thanks, Carol. I'll tell you that the city's staff and the human resources in the organization, as in any organization, is probably the most valuable asset that we have, particularly in an organization that's service focused. We've always had an issue with some turnover, and it is directly related to compensation packages. And it's not just salary, it's the full package that we offer to our employees that make us attractive. I think that's one of our largest priorities for this next budget year. Thank you.
Robert?
I'm going to take it a little differently. I think that one of the issues we have of a 42% loss in staff is not uncommon to the city employee, the city staff. It's also true in businesses. I think we're seeing a changing since COVID in how people are living their lives. So financial is one of the components. We have resources for 42% of staff that we have yet to fill. So we have monies that we can appropriate if it was a dollar matter.
Okay, thank you. Kelly, this is to you for 1 minute response, and I feel like you'll probably best be able to relate to the question. Our city is governed by a city manager council form of government. Describe what your relationship as a council member should be with the city staff.
Absolutely. We are, as we should be, we're not large enough to have a strong mayor form of government like they have in Colorado Springs. Too much control in one person. The manager council form of government, the council of 7 has 3 employees. We have the city manager, we have the municipal court judge, and we have the city attorney. Those are the only people that report to the council. The rest of the staff in the city reports to the city manager. And that's how that whole system works. And so issues that come with personnel and staff, we can have a conversation, but we don't direct the city manager on matters of personnel. So it's a pretty concise answer, but that's pretty much the way it works.
Thank you. Would
Thank you,
anyone-
Carol.
Yes, Matt, you would like to comment, please?
I would. I believe that the council should be acting very much like the board of advisors in larger companies where the board is setting the direction that we would like to see the executive take with the company and hold them accountable to the directions that we set. It's not their responsibility to set those objectives for themselves, it's ours, and then for them to execute.
And other comments on that relationship between council and staff? Hillary?
Sure, that is actually how it works. Council sets policy and procedure. We set the policy, the city manager does his best with his staff to then direct the city and achieve the policies that council sets. And another thing about staff is that it's really important that council listens to and gets feedback from the staff because they are the experts in a lot of the topics. We can't be experts in utilities, public works, engineering, and a number of other issues that the staff takes on. So it's good to work hand in hand with them.
Catherine?
Yeah, one of my goals while I was up here was to make sure that staff had the tools and the abilities to do their job effectively. And if they did not, then they could come to us and we could discuss it as a policy or whatnot. But the staff is really the backbone of our community, not us.
Any other comments? It's a delicate balance, but to understand that relationship is very important, not only for council members, but the community as well. Hillary, in a recent Courier letter to the editor, a former city council member suggested that the city council consider moving the city's street capital improvement fund to the city's general fund. The street capital improvement fund is sourced by a voter-approved sales tax and specifically targeted for street improvements and maintenance. Would you support such an initiative to move that to the general fund?
No, it's not allowed. That's my answer.
And would anyone else like to? Yes,
I agree
Matt?
with Hillary.
Oh, that
That's
was
it. For
great.
410, you can't move it.
Well, I'll weigh in to say that I thought it was an interesting article. I thought that what he proposed was worth discussion. It's very right. It's not possible. It would have to be something that came before the people. But it would certainly be worth looking at as we're starting to get greater transparency with our finances now with the change in leadership. So I think the discussion is worth exploring.
Kelly?
As was mentioned by you, Carol, it was a initiative. It was something that was approved by the vote of people for that 1 cent sales tax to be added for specific uses, capital related, from streets to drainage and the related. Without a vote of the people, I don't think that can be done. In fact, I can pretty much sit here and say that it can't be done. And we do have a lot of need for that. That is one of the sources of money we use to leverage federal funding for projects like the reliever route. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments on that 401? Frank, this question is for you for 1 minute. The Downtown Development Authority, or the DDA, has attempted for many years to promote and develop Woodland Station. That's a prime piece of commercial real estate in the heart of the city. You know that. The DDA will have to forfeit the property to the city if it's not purchased and developed in the near future. What do you believe should happen to Woodland Station?
If I tell you what happens to it, do we get to make sure that's what happens to it?
Maybe.
I would like to see it be multi-use at a level of not taking the view away from our Main Street folks. I would like to see limited restaurants because of our mainstream folks, but I would like to see, I don't know, mini golf, walking area, climbing hill. What did you have on your planning thing, what you did, Matt? So no, I mean, if we could just put it to use that would benefit the city instead of having an ongoing year after year. But I can understand the difficulty in lining up financing, especially after these last 2 years. But yes, we actually need to do something with it, obviously. And I don't have the answer for that right now. It's a long ways away.
Matt?
Yeah, I believe the date is December 31st, 2023. At that time, I do believe that council has the ability to vote on whether or not we would give them an extension. So I would say that if it looks like they're making progress and they're working with the developer, and if there's some promising progress there, that we give them the extension and allow them to do what their stated mission with the property was. Otherwise, I would say that it'd be best to take the ownership back over and let the free market decide what will go there.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I'll weigh in to say that the DDA has done some fabulous stuff around this city, from the Dinosaur to the Microtel to O'Reilly's to Dollar Store to Tractor Supply. I mean, there is a lot of projects that the DDA has brought to the downtown development region for the benefit of the community. And what I call the gold ring, Lord of the Rings, the gold ring of the property down at Woodland Station is what is right for us looking at where we'll go with it. We have chartered a DDA. They've got 10 more years to actually figure that out. And I've run out of time, so I can't give you the rest of my thoughts.
Any other comments on Woodland Station?
I'm just gonna have a real quick one. We need to figure out how to develop it correctly for the community such that it brings in revenues and new businesses to better Woodland Park as a whole.
Thank you.
Deanne?
When I went through Citizens Academy, we had an exercise where we sat down and all planned and dreamed about that piece of property. And so many wonderful ideas are there, and we are learning where the money would come from. But it could make our city really inviting for people to visit and to spend their money. And I would love to hear even more ideas for what should happen to that piece of property.
Deanne, this question is for you. And then we're going to go to our guests from the press. Recently, some local business owners and political groups proposed the city reinstate the vendor fee or a vendor subsidy. The issue's been framed by some, but not necessarily residents in the community, as a business support initiative. However, if approved, this action would have little impact on small businesses and an estimated $25 to $50 annually, and will disproportionately reduce the city's revenue and additionally give a larger proportion of benefits to what we would call big box businesses here in town. Would you support that initiative?
From what I understand, this fee is businesses have to hire people to do their vendor fees. They have to have accountants, they have to report. And so they're paying for these things that are happening and should have some money coming back because of the work that they're doing. And I believe that the vendor fee, I believe that We should have less taxes.
Any other comments on the vendor fee? Yes, ma'am.
Just to be clear, the vendor, this is not a fee. It is a credit that was given, and the state and county still provide that credit at, I believe, a rate of 4% of the taxes due as a stipend to compensate them for collecting the tax on behalf of the governmental entity. It is not a fee. It's mischaracterized by saying it's a fee. And so it's anymore, most businesses have point of sale systems. And thank you.
I'll keep
you
going
gonna
for you.
finish
Yeah. So most businesses have point of sales computer systems that it's a push of a button. And it allows them to submit the taxes to to all three, the city, the state, and the county. I believe that's what Kelly was going to say, and I'll expound on that, to which I don't think it's necessary to subsidize businesses with taxpayer dollars.
Matt, I saw your hand next, and then I'll go to Frank.
Great. Yeah, I would say that tax collecting agencies do force businesses to remit those sales taxes. So you are becoming a servant of that agency. And if you're doing work for the government, you should be compensated for that. So I would be in favor of reinstating the vendor fee.
Don, I'm sorry, I promised Frank.
Oh, that's okay. Is it that vendor fee, would it be like half our budget we'd be given to Walmart?
Be a lot.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Which is a point in itself. Okay. Don,
Actually, I support giving back the vendor's fee to the vendors. The state has recently increased the amount they give back. So, and like Matt said, if the merchant is doing work in behalf of the government, they should get that money back. That's costing them to do it. A lot of businesses can use that money, even though it may not be very much to some, but they can use it.
other comments on the vendor fees?
You know, we, as government, like to keep the people's money, but let me remind you that the business community is what generates the wealth for Woodland Park. The business community generates something like, I'm going to say 78, 72% of the revenues for the city. And when you don't acknowledge them and their efforts, you are disincentivizing business to be strong in the community. I very much support giving back the vendor fee to the businesses. They own it, they earn it, and they know how to spend those dollars best in our community. And I think it'll benefit us.
That is the conclusion of the questions that I've drafted for you. But now we're going to go to our representatives from the press. I'm going to start with Norma from Pikes Peak Courier, because I know Norma is watching the snow very carefully. Y'all have to speak and pull that one up to you. Yeah, oh, you wrote it. Pull that up closer to you.
Okay. How do you find the middle ground and the balance the wants and needs of 8,000 people in these increasingly polarized times?
I'm gonna start with Robert, and it's a 1-minute response, and if you need her to repeat that.
Okay, balancing the needs of 8,000 different people. You know, we're a representative form of government, and the people will be electing 7 of us to represent their point of view. At the same time, we have a responsibility to the community to have open hearts and open ears to what their concerns are. None of us think the same, no matter what part of the spectrum we come from. So balancing that is why we deliberate as council. Balancing that is why we have attorneys to seek us through the legal waters. And balancing that is part of us being respectful of one another and hearing one another. And we spend a lot of time now, particularly with the national politics of being polarized, finding some excuse to distance ourselves from each other. And I think we actually could have more in common than we think.
Matt?
1 minute response, 30 seconds.
One, you can take up to a minute.
Okay, great.
Absolutely.
I would say that it's imperative that our representatives take a lot of time and put a lot of effort into getting to know our residents and hearing their concerns and their wants and needs and trying to balance all of those and within the confines of our charter. And so, I think that taking time, putting time into your schedule as a council person to make time for forums with the people should be a priority. If we don't listen to the people and give them the opportunity to talk to us, then it'll be very difficult to balance those needs.
John?
Trying to get 8,000 people to agree on one subject is going to be an impossibility. Let alone trying to get 7 council members to listen to 8,000 people, compute their input, and come to a decision. This country was a country that was built on compromise. Our Constitution wouldn't have been approved if there hadn't have been compromise. We need to be able to work together as citizens and as a council, listen to each other, evaluate the data, and then make the decision that's best for the community as a whole. So the answer is input from everybody, being civil with each other, listening, and coming to a consensus.
Thanks, Don. Catherine?
So I like to basically listen and hear and respect everybody's views. But those of us that have lived here for 20 plus years know that citizens pretty much only get involved when something's extremely important to them. And trust me, we will know what that is because we will fill this chamber, we will fill the UPass Cultural Center. So it's not misrepresented. Generally, I feel that if citizens have issues, 8,000 or 2 of them, they will contact their council.
Kelly?
Thank you. We, as elected officials, were elected by the populace of the city, the electors of the city, to use our good judgment and to listen to all of the data, the presentations, and the public comments that are presented in whatever meeting or every consideration that we're taking. And they are counting on us to use our good judgment to make the best decision possible. And that comes after a good deliberative process between the council members and evaluating all of those different things in a nutshell and coming to what we think is the best solution for all, not for the few because there are a few there's those usual suspects that always show. We don't always get a good turnout to council meetings, even if it is a passionate issue. And so balance is the word, and to use your good judgment to make the best decision possible for the whole. Thank you.
Hillary?
Well, I'd just like to say, I think that so far everyone's answer has been right and right on with listening to our citizens. We know oftentimes being elected officials, we hear more often when they're upset than rather when they're pleased. But another benefit of this council particularly is that we are nonpartisan and our job is to abide by the law. And sometimes that helps take out the emotion of it. We can have empathy and sympathy for the situation at hand, but all of our rights are inalienable. They are not separated. No one's right outweighs another citizen's right. So our job is to abide by the law and the rights of the citizens at the matter at hand.
Thank you, Hillary.
Excellent.
Frank?
I just made a couple quick notes from what everybody's been saying, and I appreciate everybody's comments. They've been excellent. I have respect others, be the neutral ground or the sounding board, research the issue, discuss the issue, communicate with the citizens, and then work to a compromise as a community. I think that's a key for success for our new council.
Thank you, Frank. Deanne?
The division in the nation and with my family is heartbreaking. I would work, and all through the years, I've worked with people who I don't agree with totally, but people have their God-given treasures in them, and you take advantage of the good parts of them. And after I've been shut down and separated from my friends and family, I am looking for bridges. My left-wing friends and family, I still love them. And I don't have to agree with them, but if we had to make a decision about anything, I would pick their brain and I would respect them. And I think that I believe that our country's divisions are going to start being bridged, and I hope for that.
Thank you. I appreciate every answer to that question. We have a question from Bob Volpe from Mountain Jackpot, and I'll read that in just a second, but I wanted to make everyone aware that you can submit questions to our traveling basket carriers. And I will take a couple of those, but the next question is from Bob Volpe. Bob asks, how do you plan to deal with the population increase with the expansion of Keras over the next several years? And we'll circle back around to Robert.
Well, we're having an expansion of our community for a number of reasons. One, we can start with I-25 being completed between Denver and Colorado Springs. That is the increase in expansion in Colorado Springs is pushing development up the mountain. So we will have that expansion for factors aside from the Bible College. The Bible College has a revolving community, if you like. Their students come, students stay a few years, and then they go. I do understand that Keras is now starting to plan for some of their own student accommodation. So between the need for us to find affordable housing to birth what that looks like for Woodland Park, I think we're on the track to solving that. That's what I would say.
Matt, same question again. That's how do you plan to deal with the population increase with the expansion of Keras over the next few years?
Sure. Well, I think that the answer to dealing with population growth in one area or another would be the same. We need to prioritize investment and infrastructure to be able to handle an increasing population. And we need to make an effort to attract and retain talent in our city, various departments of our city services to make sure that we have the staff to maintain that infrastructure and implement improvements as they are made.
Thank you. Don?
There we go. There's many factors that are making this town grow, and it's just not Bible College. As far as what are we going to do to accommodate this growing community? One, we're limited. Water is the key to it. We know what our maximum population can be. As far as housing goes, the market's going to drive that. Developers, they're going to look at it, and maybe what they decide is that they don't need to build single family residence, but they need to build townhouses or patio homes or apartments, something like that, that will handle more people in a tighter density than a single family home, to allow for some of these people that are lower, unable to afford a home, but work up here and they can afford those instead of the housing.
Catherine?
I'm basically going to say that the development's going to happen. We need to do it smartly, and we need to basically do it through the process, which we have, which is the planning department and the municipal code. Whether I like the business model or not doesn't make a difference on how we develop the community. It needs to be done through the law of the code.
Kelly?
Will you read it one more time for me, please?
And this is from.
It's been a while since I've heard it.
This is
I'm
from,
old.
and this is from Bob Volpe at the Mountain Jackpot. And I hope he doesn't mind me reading it for him. How do you plan to deal with the population increase with the expansion of Keras over the next several years?
That's a tough question. We're, as a real estate professional working in this market, we are very challenged, not only from the purchase of a home, but rental property as well. For anyone and everyone that would like to live here. Colorado Springs is the same. And I don't know what the answer is, but as far as managing the expansion, I understand from a presentation we received from Keras that they're planning to break ground next month on student housing. It will have secondary effects, and as David Law always used to say, tertiary effects. I hope I said that right. And it will be good from the vantage point of it will open up some of the housing in town for others than just students. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but on the other hand, it will increase our population significantly and put a lot of pressure on a lot of resources. Thank you.
Thank you. Hillary.
Well, let me try to be concise with the answer for Bob. Right now, the plan is through the comprehensive plan and through zoning and the planning department, and council works hand in hand with them. But I don't think that there is a particular plan. I think that previous councils lacked the foresight to understand there's a potential that the student housing could max out our population if they really do intend to grow to around 5,000. It's a transient population that may potentially not pay taxes for our services. So I think that future council needs to pay attention to what types of services are being used. If there's a potential for Keras volunteering money towards those services, such as water, roads, and emergency departments. At this time, we have nothing contracted that I'm aware of, other than the previous PUD did plan for the housing to pay taxes, which would help offset the costs, just like any other development does.
Thanks, Hillary. Frank?
I totally agree that we need to have some sort of economic development committee. We have some brilliant people that we could set up a committee like we have for fire mitigation and some of our other safety committees. I think we should be able to do an economic exclusion zone to help bring in attainable housing. I think that's a possibility our city council is more than capable of doing. We are the ones who regulate land use through our zoning laws. It does take a citizen's vote, but at times I think we can make those changes and make them acceptable so our future is bright and we keep our resources.
Thanks. And Deanne, since you're on the end of the podium, I'll repeat it. How do you plan to deal with the population increase with the expansion of Keras over the next several years?
What I've seen personally is the businesses have thrived. Since the college is up here, I have seen job vacancies filled with remarkable people. And I believe that we need to work with the county. And of course, the same as everyone else has said, the Planning Commission needs to really look ahead. I came from an area where we pre-planned our suburbs, and we had nice big fat roads. And I miss those roads. And I think that if we knew this population was coming, that our roads could be built, our water could be taken care of. And I believe that even our fun experiences, our parks and rec could be improved, and we would be a fun city to see, to come and visit. We also have a lot of conferences, so people come in for those and they stay in our hotels. And I would like some more shops for us women to go visit with.
I can go for that one. Although I do shop
that's
at
unfair.
Goodwill, but that's another story. This is a question from Zoom. It's from Valerie Lundy, and some of you know Valerie. And I'm going to start with Deanne. What is your opinion on rezoning issues, particularly with respect to using RV parks as permanent residences?
I don't have a lot of experience with that, but I can only look around town that our trailer court, a couple of our trailer courts need a little help. Some of our RVs people have been staying for a long time. And I think that's because of the housing crunch. Zoning, I would rather see multiple families zoning instead of more RV parks.
Frank, same question.
Why did the zoning allow you to live in your tent for an entire year or for the rest of your life, but you can't live in a single family home, but only part-time? I don't have an answer for that.
Okay. Hillary.
So this is obviously a topic council had to address. And one of the reasons I made the decision to keep it the way that it was and has been since before half of us in this room probably lived here is knowing that a large majority, not a large majority, it's actually a minority, but a minority of the people who live in those RVs, in those RV parks are people who work here. They work at Walmart, they work at Safeway, they manage some of the stores up here, they work at Foxworth. And there wasn't a plan for what to do with them when they were told to leave. And there's no other option or place for them to go that we were aware of that would be in the near vicinity. So they'd either have to uproot themselves and lose their jobs. And that was a decision that I was going to make as a council member with my fellow council members. And it was one I wasn't willing to make. I'm not going to make someone leave where they've lived for a number of years, lose their job, and have no income then to pay for a new housing. So it was not a decision we took lightly, and it was something where we really had to consider the community in this issue.
Kelly.
Thank you. So I think countrywide and maybe even further, we're seeing a trend and a change in people's habitats and how they live. I know a lot of folks, and I'm sure you all do too, that have sold all their things. They've retired, they've sold all their stuff. They bought a RV or a motorhome and they're traveling and they're staying. They may stay here for a year or just for the winter, and they go to Arizona, or they're traveling the country to see the world. Well, our world in the United States. I don't think they can drive across the ocean yet, but anyway, I don't think that we as a council or as the government should tell property owners how they can and cannot use their property. If someone chooses to live in an RV, they should be able to do that without us saying, because I'm not an authority on RV living, saying that you can't do that. That was perfect timing, although I wasn't done, Debbie, but thanks anyway.
Catherine.
So I'm going to preface this first with, I'm not going to tell anybody how they should or shouldn't live, whether they live in an RV or a house. The issue I have with the current campgrounds is that they're zoned campgrounds. They're not zoned mobile home parks, yet they're being treated as a mobile home park. So for me, I did vote no against the ordinance to go back because of that black and white. I'm sorry, it's the law. They're violating the law. I don't know the answer to solve the problem. Maybe we come up with a hybrid zone that would allow for that, but something has to, in my mind, something has to change, but I don't know the answer.
Okay, thank you. Honest answer. Dawn.
I have to echo some of Kelly's comments there. The nomad life is something that is really happening in the United States. I have schoolmates that have retired already and are traveling the country. And I know of employees, well, not my employees, but I've had employees in the past when I ran a business that had to live in trailers in campgrounds because that's what they could afford. And that was what was available. And I also echo some of Catherine's comments about the zoning and the law. So we have to find a compromise in there. It's a way to help relieve some of the housing situation, but we also have to find the right way to do it.
Thank you, Dawn. Matt.
So I've heard a couple of the candidates up here say that government should not tell our people what they can and cannot do with their property. And have also said that we need to regulate short-term rentals, which is something that people are doing with their property. So that kind of feels like a mismatch to me. I tend to agree that we shouldn't, but you know, a campground is a place for camping. There is supposed to be some turnover there, and there is an economic impact to letting those spaces that are here to accommodate people visiting the area be taken up by long-term residents. So I do believe it's a complex issue. I think that it's unfortunate that people who have established long-term residences in those campgrounds could be affected by a decision to change the zoning regulations there, but it is something that needs to be considered, and the impact on the community at large needs to be considered when making that decision.
Thank you. Robert.
You know, I'm an average guy. I'm a we the people. We live in a free country. And at the same time, we have been developing. We're getting more and more regulated. So what used to be free is no longer free. What you used to be able to do without any issues now are being regulated. So we have businesses in our community who have been allowing folks to come and stay at their RV parks as long as they like for years, years and years. And now we're moving structure onto it, and we've come to a point. And as a council member, I made a big mistake when I first got elected and voted on this because I thought it was just language change. Oh, it was a lot deeper than that. So I think I think less government is more healthy. I think less government is the way we need to guard our freedoms. And there are difficult issues, but at the bottom line is I defer to private property rights.
Thank you. I've got a couple of questions here from the audience, and I'll start with you, Robert. What concerns do you have, if any, about transparency of our public decision-making process, and how will you help ensure citizens have as much access to the city government as they should?
Well, this has been one of the reasons I decided to run, because I saw that my fellow council members were making decisions behind closed doors or in pairs to decide what was going to happen up on the dais before we actually talked about an issue thoroughly in front of the people. So I think the whole issue of transparency should be primary in our commitment to, as an elected official. And although some things are legal, you can make anything legal, it's not necessarily right.
Matt?
I would say transparency in government is always an issue. We need for our people to trust in the process that we as a governmental body are engaged in. And I think that you can only trust that body if you know what's going on inside the heads of the individuals that comprise that body, why they're making those decisions. And that's why it's important for the public to be a part of that conversation, to come to meetings and comment on items on the agenda, or items not on the agenda, things that they want to bring to our attention. To do it, you can, as a voter, to be informed on the ways that individual folks are voting and the whys behind them. But yeah, I think that the more that we do in the light as opposed to in the shadows, the more trust that we can instill in our people.
Thank you. Don?
Transparency is the key to what government is. If the people don't have confidence in their government, in what they're doing, that could fail the city. I made a comment several months ago before the council about appearance is everything. If something doesn't look right, it may not be right. Everything that needs to be conducted needs to be done out in the public. If you're interviewing or appointing a position, be it a board, a council member, a mayor, everybody that's up for that process should be vetted in public, right out in front, asked questions so that the public can hear and understand what that person's point of view is, maybe what the council's concern is with that person. Everything should be done out in the light.
Thank you, Don. Catherine?
Transparency is, I believe, something that we all view differently. What is transparent to me may not be transparent to you. I do my due diligence and I try to be as transparent from the dais as I possibly can. I don't go out of my way to make backroom deals or have illegal meetings. We all discuss things up here when they're important. Otherwise, I just do my research. I talk to staff and make my decisions.
Thank you. Kelly?
Thank you. I just want to assure the public that there's been no back deals. There's been no lack of transparency in any appointments, any decisions, any votes that have taken place. And I will sit here all day long and tell you that, because that's the truth. The insinuations that that's been done, I have seen no proof of that. And I will guarantee you that that is not what has happened with this council. I have been involved in municipal government for many, many years, and as an auditor and evaluating systems and processes. And I'll tell you that this staff and this city and your government here is done right. And you can count on that. I get very frustrated with people that run on the backs of others and not on what they can bring to the position. I will tell you that I will bring honesty, transparency to you all. That's a promise.
Thank you, Kelly. Hillary.
Well, what's interesting is council can't do anything unless they're on the dais in front of the public. The agenda is publicly posted. The public can attend the meetings, the public gets to speak at the meetings, and council participates with one another and votes in front of the public. So no decision gets to be made behind closed doors. Every council member can speak to one another outside of council by phone, by meeting, and we can do it individually. If there are more than 3 of us outside at public, the public can approach us, they can ask us questions, they can find out what we're talking about if they want to. But we don't typically meet ever. I know the 3 of us have, had some meet and greets, but we're out in the public. We're not discussing items that we're going to be voting on at the next council meeting, and we're completely open to public. And all of our meet and greets are posted. They were posted in the newspaper long before 24-hour notice is even required. But nothing on this council has ever happened that has not happened in front of the public.
Frank.
Thank you. Appreciate that. If I get elected to city council, I hope that you will trust my word. And I hope to make sure that our agendas are posted in a proper time, that the public can see it and they're actually correct. I would also appreciate more public awareness. And I think that's good. Thank you.
Thank you. Deanne.
Don made a statement that what people see is what we're guessing on. Kitty and I have gone to every city council meeting, and we were brand new and listening and learning. There was one time when the council got together and came out and said, we've made an appointment, and we made that decision all together behind, and this is how we're going. And one of the council members said, I never heard about it. And I don't know exactly what the details are, and I can learn those details. Another time we had downtown development people not vetted, and we didn't know them because we're new to city council, but 2 people were appointed to the downtown development that came from the same business, and we wondered if that was a conflict of interest. And I don't know if that was transparent. And also someone who had sued the downtown development was appointed, and that didn't make sense to us either. So we need more information.
Thank you. I have one more question from the audience, and then we'll go to our closing comments. And this could be interesting, but we're going to start with Robert. What's the one thing that differentiates you from your opponent or opponents?
The one thing is commitment to truth and integrity. And I say that because a lot of things are legal. What we need in our community is a commitment to grow together in unity, in truth, and in integrity. And that builds trust between us all. So I have the skill set to bring people together in unity and in integrity and allow a diversity of opinion to be expressed and to us guide us to the next step in where we're going as a community. So integrity and principled leadership.
Thank you. Matt?
I think the thing that distinguishes me from the other candidates, probably pretty obvious. It's my youth.
Your beard?
No, he's got a beard. Frank's got some facial hair. No, I mean, the next youngest person running is David Ott, who unfortunately was not able to be here because he's suffering some flu-like symptoms. He was in the Army as long as I have been alive, right? So there's a pretty big divide in age here. And ultimately, I think one of the things that the voters will have to decide is whether or not they feel comfortable with young people being involved in government. I'm not a child, been around a while. I've got a 6-year-old son, but I am very young compared to the other candidates, and I'm very young compared to the historical demographic of people that have been elected to council.
Matt, thank you. That was a great answer. It was very sincere. Don?
I think probably the thing that separates me from most of the people up here is the fact that I consider myself just an average guy. I got involved in the city because I used to sit out there and listen to every city council meeting for the last like 3.5, 4 years. Attended a lot of committee meetings and stuff. So I feel I have a good knowledge, or at least the common person's knowledge of what's going on. I've ran or managed businesses where I've had to deal with hundreds of employees. I had to know something about each one and learn how to compromise and work with them. And I used to teach communications for a major corporation. I know I have the skill sets of being able to sit, listen, evaluate, and make a decision and work on a compromise if needed.
Thank you, Don. Catherine.
Okay, I'm gonna say basically I'm the engineering geek in the room. But it brings with, I'm detail oriented. I've spent over 15 years off and on volunteering as a citizen. I'm just another citizen who just wants to do what's best for Woodland Park.
Thank you. Kelly.
Thank you, Carol. My strength comes from my experience inside municipal government. From an internal audit perspective, which is materiality is very narrow, and evaluating the city of Colorado Springs and utilities and the hospital and all of their functions. Great experience. I have 17 years as the city's finance director. I'm very intimate with the code and with the budget, which is the city's work plan for the year, and the financial statements. I used to prepare them. I try to share that knowledge to help my fellow council members understand. It's daunting. And I think that's one of my largest skill sets. The other thing is I'm just I'm an engaging person. I feel I'm kind, thoughtful, and I listen. And I'd like to hear from more people in the community. Thank you, Debbie.
Hillary.
Well, first, let me say, I don't really appreciate the implication that I am not truthful nor principled by my opponent. I am both. I wrote the policies and procedures to this council because they didn't have it before I ran. I believe strongly in following the policies. I believe strongly in principle, and I believe strongly in the rule of law. It's frustrating that the one council member who has never spoken to me while being on this council is the one that gets to insinuate those things. I have two fellow council members who, when they were appointed and ran with me, they didn't trust me because of my last name. They had problems with my integrity, but they took the time to get to know me and work with me. And I can say now that we're friends because they understand where I'm coming from. I am not up here with any agenda. I have no ideology that I want to espouse on the dais. I am here to get the city business done. And I am truthful and I do have principles. And I believe the majority of my council would agree with that, as would most citizens who know me very well.
Thank you, Helen. Frank.
I'm trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent.
You were
I am
an
literally an Eagle
I
Scout.
was going to say that. I didn't mean to clap, but I had to.
Or man's best friend, right?
Deanne, please.
I'm wondering if I'm different because at this point, I have a big vision for the city. I can see the changes. We were shut down and all of us sat home and thought about things. I can see the potential. The college is bringing more people and more money, and so are the housing prices. And we have an opportunity to really make this city fun and beautiful. And our children and our young people, we want them back, and we need to mentor them and use their skills. I think that they have new ways of looking at everything. Someone talked about having a heliport instead of cars, and we need some input from them. And I believe that I just am looking that way at this point in my career with city council.
Thank you, Deanne. The ref told me I can ask one more question that's coming from the audience, and I think it is an important one as we begin the election season of 2022 at the local level to the national level. And I'll start with you, Deanne. This is an all mail-in election. As a candidate, what role could you have or can you have with ballots?
I heard that there was a town that didn't pay people, but had volunteers that really cared about election fraud and the lack of it. And what we could do if we wanted to is hang around the city clerk and watch where if everyone's ballots were picked up from the places that we're putting them. And we also are wondering about the mail service, hoping that the ballots can get there on time. And we haven't trusted the mail service these past few years. But I pray that all the ballots can get in on time. And I believe and I trust that our nice small town city is going to be honest with those ballots.
Frank, any comments you may have then on mail-in
Sure.
ballots in general?
I think our state and our city and our elections are very well handled with our mail-in ballots. Our state is used as an example through the nation. When I mail my ballot and it's received at the counting booth, I get a message or a text message on my phone saying it's been received. And after it's counted, I get another message. So I'm very secure with my vote being counted. So thank you.
Hillary?
I can say that our city clerk, Suzanne Leclerc, has a stellar reputation, as do our voting judges in this
Absolutely.
city. There's never been an issue with voting integrity in our city, and I trust it. And I'm grateful for the city clerk and her voting judges who serve our community to make sure that it is excellent.
Thank you. Kelly?
I will reiterate what Hillary said about our staff. Suzanne is exceptional, worked with her for many years, and she knows what she's doing. I will share that, and I'll just say that my involvement with the ballot is the one that I cast. That's the only involvement I have with the ballots. But David and Carol Debbie will probably remember that we once had Paul Revere here and tried to feed tea bags into the voting machine. That was years ago. And that was handled and we got back to business quickly. But yeah, the only involvement I have with the ballot is the one that I cast, which has my name on it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Catherine?
And I'm going to reiterate Frank, Hillary, and Kelly and say the
Thank
same
you.
thing. It's my ballot only. If I don't trust the mail system, I take it to City Hall and I drop it off in person. I do also get it tracked. I know when it's received, I know when it's counted, and I wholeheartedly believe our judges and our city clerk do a phenomenal job of election integrity.
Thank you. Don?
All right, there we go. I too believe that, it's my ballot, my vote, but what I can encourage the citizens is make sure you vote your ballot. If you don't feel comfortable with the mail, deliver it to the city hall here. And if you don't trust how it's being handled after that, get involved, be an election judge, volunteer to sit and watch the ballots being counted. There is a little bit of responsibility on the citizenry too. If you want to make sure that there's integrity in it and we don't use, voting machines and stuff here, be a part of it, get involved, be a judge, be an auditor, but it's up to you.
Thanks, Don.
Would you repeat the question?
This is an all mail-in election. As a candidate, what role can you have, if any, with a ballot or with the ballots?
Right. So yeah, when I answered that question specifically, I don't think that I can. I don't think that that's an issue for us to address. I think that's a state level issue. Generally speaking, I prefer for us to have in-person voting. I think that mail-in elections are ripe for corruption and voter fraud. But I don't think that's something that we can decide to make a change on ourselves.
Okay, Robert, finally.
Suzanne has a great process in place for Woodland Park. I can speak at a local level that there's nothing I can do except cast my own ballot. You can hand deliver it. You can put it in the box outside of City Hall. Or you can go to the library, I believe, as well with casting your vote. But that goes through a process that's outside of the hands of anybody on council. There is certainly some voter integrity issues at a state level. On a county level, I would say I have confidence. At a state level, I do not have confidence. So, this question is really like, it's about trust. It's like, do you trust the process? And I can say that if you have a question about the process, go and visit City Hall here during the election process and you don't have to necessarily be a judge. You can just watch and you can see how it's done. It's very detailed. It's very tight. And I commend Suzanne for her years of experience and work to tighten it up very nicely for us.
I agree.
Yeah.
I have 2 points to make before we go to closing statements. Mail-in ballots, I think, are either in the mail or on their way.
Yes.
Correct.
14th.
And then secondly, Kelly, you and I are not as old as Paul Revere. It was just a guy who was pretending to be Paul Revere.
That's correct. That is correct. He was in costume. But thank you for pointing out our age, Carol, because I think I may be one of the oldest ones up here, but that's just a number, right, ladies and gentlemen?
Thank you all, but I would like now to begin with your closing statements, and you'll each have 2 minutes, and we will read David Ott's closing statement into the record as well. And Deanne, we're going to start with you.
I look forward to doing work, which is volunteer, on this city council. I believe we have good people. I believe we already have council members that are good. I think there should be a change in the council and decisions that will be made and the new issues that come with the new type of city that we're having. I would like us to have the basics before the crowd comes, like roads and water and police. I would like funding for everything adequately. I believe we should take advantage of being a college town in every way that we can think of. I believe that our whole county could look like an inviting place for people to come when more shops are made and more coffee shops in the new downtown development area property. I love the big mountain, and I also belong to the Woodland Park Wind Symphony, and I really would like to see a theater. I would like to see theater and music. We used to have a lot more music in this town when I first came here. I think that we would be a star city with all of these amenities and taking care of our local citizens. I also think that there are a lot of us, there are 8,000 of us who have great ideas. And maybe it's mostly the young people because the rest of us have been kind of thwarted. And if we could give young people the opportunity to maybe even financially to try out their new invention or their ideas of even beauty in the area, I would like to encourage that.
Thank you, Deanne.
Vote for me.
Frank.
Thank you. I'm running for city council because I'm deeply committed to our citizens in our city. My promise is to represent all the residents of Woodland Park, not just those who share my views or those who will vote for me. I also promise to rise above the fray, to reach beyond my comfort zones and to work with others who may have the opposing view. Rising to that challenge is what makes our democracy great and the future of our city even greater. I appreciate everyone's time. Sign up for the Citizens Academy. Be careful driving home.
Hillary.
Number 2 on the ballot, please.
Well, I'd like to be able to continue doing the service that I've been doing for this community. I love my community. I have my life here, my business here, my friends are here. I enjoy my time on council. I enjoy my time with the city staff and my fellow council members. And I represent all 8,000 residents, not just a fringe few, not just a small few, but everyone. And council is nonpartisan. That is our job, is to remain nonpartisan, is to run this city as a business and not bring our ideology and personal beliefs in, although we do have principles and those remain. But even though I say it's nonpartisan, in the history of the past 4 years, I do have the most conservative voting record out of any council member here. And I appreciate the city. I appreciate the opportunity, and I want to continue serving. Thank you.
Kelly?
Thank you again. Whoops, hold please. Thank you again. I just want to make one comment. I hear a lot of that our city needs all this improvement. I think we are a star city. I think we are a lovely place. And that's why so many people are coming here. That's why we have so many people buying the homes up and prices are going up, because we are a star. We're beautiful. Any place can always grow and do better and improve. And I see that as a running theme always, whether it's with this council, past councils. That's our direction. That's our charge. And the staff as well. One of the things that has been a focus for me since I was first elected 4 years ago, and that I want to continue working on, is building and rebuilding bridges with the county school district. We used to have quarterly meetings with all the emergency services, the county, the city, and we would share what's going on and how we could help each other. I want to see more of that. I want to rekindle those relationships. And I think that we're headed in the right direction. And I just want to continue to do good work for you all. I think we've come a long way in the 4 years I've been here. I'm approachable. Please reach out, call me. My number's on the website. You can Google me and you'll see all my contact information. So please reach out. A lot of you have, and I appreciate that. Again, I'd like to continue to serve you all. I'd like to thank Carol again for being with us this evening and doing such a fine job as our moderator. Debbie, thank you to you and your board for putting this together for all of us, particularly for you all. I'd like to thank everyone up here on the dais and David. I know he's probably watching on Zoom, but he is not a well man, and be glad he's not here. Thank you so much, and be safe going home.
Thank you. Catherine?
I too would like to thank you and Deb and the citizens for coming out in the snow and for watching us on Zoom or Facebook. I'm proud of what I've managed to accomplish in a short time on city council. I helped adopt our citizens' vision with the comprehensive plan. I've brought stability, or we've brought stability back to the police department, we hope, with our new police chief. We continue to have a balanced budget with debt service reduction to work down paying the pool and the park. I also have enjoyed bringing more respect to our city staff and coming together with respectful dialogue and getting city business done. I would like to use lessons learned and our history as a basis to continue to move forward and make better decisions as a community. I will also continue to push for transparency and to demonstrate functional government focused on our residents. Section 2.1 of Article 2 of our city charter states that all elections shall be nonpartisan. Partisan politics tends to divide public servants, especially these days. I prefer to keep this out of our city business and focus on continuing to serve the people of Woodland Park. And I have no hidden agenda. I love Woodland Park. I'm a Colorado girl. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Catherine. Don?
Thank you. Candidates that are running need to be concerned, knowledgeable, have integrity to represent the people. I believe that I can do that and fill that bill. I too am an Eagle Scout. And I've learned over the years that from different organizations I've been in, some of their mottos. One of them is service above self from the Rotary. I believe that it is better to serve than to give yourself laurels. I've always been a servant. I serve as a deacon at my church. And obviously, I've been willing to help step up and serve in this community on various committees and such. I believe in teamwork. I believe I could work well with any of these people up here. I've learned over the years in business and in organizations how to listen and to compromise. And also, there's another motto from Rotary, and that is building mutually beneficial working relationships. I believe that the city needs to build those relationships, like Kelly said, with the county, with the state, with the federal government, so that we can work together and get things done that need to be done in our community. And I also feel I could work and build those relationships with each of these people sitting up here and with you, the citizen. Thank you. Thank you, Chamber and Carol, for presenting or allowing us to present tonight. Thank you to the city for allowing us to use the facility. And I just ask for your vote. Thank you.
Don, thank you. We're going to read David Ott's closing statement in now, and then we'll continue with Matt.
Okay, and I'm going to give David just a wee bit of leverage because I'm the one reading. You all have got to answer different questions. So if I go over a little 2 minutes, we're going to give that grace to David. In closing, David wants to let the citizens know where he stands on items that he feels are of great importance. The first item is the mill levy, understanding no one likes taxes, including himself. He does not support reducing the mill levy currently until we are able to pay off debt that the citizens approve through voting. He believes if we continue to pay off debt early and build our reserve funds, this will allow for mill levy reductions in the future. He also understands concerns about short-term rentals. Though he strongly believes in property owner rights to use their property to earn income, he believes we need to look at policy for governing short-term rentals to ensure they can coexist peacefully with residents in their neighborhoods and not to disturb the peace of the citizens. Attainable housing is a concern for several residents. We must carefully balance the need for attainable housing with maintaining the city as a small western mountain town that is premium property community. With that, the current market controls the value of property and housing prices. When elected to city council, he will carefully consider zoning for attainable housing with input from the residents and working with his fellow council members. Water as an important commodity to the community that we need to grow. Gaining more water shares is not necessarily for growing our residential community, but to help us sustain through droughts or any other unforeseen events, to include suppression of wildfire. The city should continue to dedicate resources to ensure a reliever route comes to full realization. He believes this will reduce traffic, allowing for parking in front of our businesses and make our downtown district more walkable, allowing our visitors to eat and shop more comfortably in our community. Of note, the reliever route will not have services. Please feel free to reach out to David to address these other concerns. The information can be found on the City of Woodland Park's webpage for council and mayoral candidates. Thank you for your support, and he hopes, I'm going to read as he's reading. Thank you for the support, and I hope I have your vote and serve you all on City Council. A big thank you to the Woodland Park Chamber of Commerce for planning and sponsoring the event, as well as the City of Woodland Park for hosting this event in this venue tonight. Final thought, the dais is not the place to advance an ideology or political agenda. It is a place to conduct the city's business in a nonpartisan way that benefits all residents.
Matt.
Sure. I would like to start by thanking everybody for coming out tonight and giving us the opportunity to explain to you how we approach the issues that we face here in our community. I would like to thank the Chamber of Commerce for putting on this event. Thank you, Debbie and Carol, for moderating and giving us this opportunity. I am a young, conservative, Christian businessman. I am young, but I am not inexperienced. I have experience managing multi-million-dollar budgets. I have experience being responsible for the incomes of many, many folks. I am a skilled negotiator. Coming to agreement with folks is something that I practice on a daily basis. I am a resident of Woodland Park now for about 6 years, and I hope to call Woodland Park my home for the foreseeable future. And I want to make sure that Woodland Park remains a great place to live for as long as I am here and for posterity. I have a 6-year-old son who's growing up here. I want to make sure that this is a safe, beautiful place for him to grow up, a place for him to foster childhood relationships, a place for him to be influenced by the many respectable people that live here in this community. I encourage everybody to reach out to me directly to get more information on where I stand on the issues that are important to you. Give me a phone call, shoot me an email, and I will make sure that I give you as much information as you want to get about me. Also, please check out my website, Matt Hayes for Council about matthayesforcouncil.com. And also I have a meet and greet at Java House this Friday morning from 9 to 10:30. I'd love to have all of you come and join me there and get the chance to shake each one of your hands and answer any questions that you might have. And for everybody watching online, please come out. Would love to see you. Hopefully the snow will have cleared out by then. So while it is snowing, be safe on your way back home. And thanks again for coming out tonight.
Thank you, Matt. And Robert.
Thank you. Before I go into my closing statements, I just want to assure Hillary that my comments are my identity of myself. You and I have worked cordially over the time we have served together. Perhaps that will continue and perhaps it won't. And I just wanted to let you know that I do respect you in how you have fulfilled your office. I started tonight by telling you why I decided to run for mayor. I'm a passionate American. I'm committed to upholding our representative form of government as a principled conservative. I am a graduate of Carrot Bible College. I found my calling serving in representative government. My hope is that our Woodland Park High School graduates can find their calling in our local community. My journey through civics and constitutional studies gives me a biblical and scientific worldview. So did many of our forebears back to the Mayflower. I invite you to go to my website, raz4mayor.com, and read my personal journey through many world religions and belief systems. I have a sincere interest to serve the people of Woodland Park, not as part of some hidden agenda for our town, but simply as an American who loves God, loves our country, and loves our mountain community. Freedom is an unalienable right of each of us, upheld through the rule of law. We have the right to disagree, so let's do it civilly. Some say we are not only divided, but we're divided into 4 parts. Not one faction can dominate in our community. We have rules, regulations, and structure that we collectively choose to follow. As I'm running out of time, let me just say, I have the temperament to lead my colleagues in a positive vision through transparency of process, a fairness in deliberations as your mayor. Let's collaborate both together in community and regionally to build a positive future. I commit to standing up for the voice of we the people. I'm Robert Zuluaga, and I ask for your vote. Thank you very much.
Now we can have some applause. I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight, and I do wish you all a safety going home. I want to thank the candidates for sharing with us your views, and I would be pleased to have any of you on this dais come the middle part of April. I wish you luck. Thank you. Thank all of those who joined us. And I think at the top of the hour, we had about 50 Zoom participants, so that's great too. Thank you and drive safe.